On the last episode of DD Speed Shop, I drove 500 miles in my 57 Chevy from Saskatoon home and realized I had overheating problems. So, we're going to fix them problems by draining all the coolant out of this thing, which I had just built mere hours ago, but just could not keep up. So this thing, it would in drive, I chalked it, put the e-brake on, put it in drive and let it sit. After about 20 minutes, you started getting up to 210, 215, just got too hot, wasn't having it. I do have an aluminum Chinese rad off eBay, which I bought years ago with a 16-inch electric fan on it. Just wasn't up to snuff, I guess, for what we got going on. So I went out to the local speed shop and I bought the biggest rad they have, which I've used before in my 55 Chevy. So it's 25% or so bigger. It's got a bit of a twist in it. 25% bigger. I do have to put a bung in it somewhere, but whatever. And I went and bought, I put them down there maybe, 2 electric cooling fans to run on it. Unfortunately, the way these fans or these rads fit, they're obviously quite a bit wider, crossflow design versus the up and down version of a standard Tri-5. This is an exact copy of a Tri-5 Chevy, just aluminum with, I believe it's got two cores or 2 rows in it. But hey, what are we gonna do? It's gonna sit in front of the core support, kind of run here to here. So all this has to come off, radiator has to come out, these side plates will have to come out. I don't believe anything is on them, unfortunately, all the wiring goes through that. It might be a schmozzle, but we're gonna make it fit. It might be offset one way or the other. Then we gotta screw around with radiator hoses, maybe where the air intake is. It's gonna be a bit of a job, but if we're gonna be in 30 some odd degree heat in parking lot kind of conditions, there's no options. We gotta make it cool. So, let's start stripping. So that's the way it's gonna go. It's gonna be a little offset. Now the reason being, I took off this one little apron here because the rad hose is actually gonna fit around the side there. I'm gonna show you it right. My finger is, and it's gotta go right there. So a gentle curve, we should be fine. This is actually sitting on some wiring. You can drop down just a scotch. Well, we'll put a level on it, see where it's gonna wanna be. But, and then for that, I might have to either notch this or probably just lift it up. Actually, that's probably why I had it like that, so it's level. The petcock down there is hitting, so we'll have to trim that. And then for the upper rad hose, I can probably just actually use what I made. Put that there and just put a piece in between, or get another piece, just a quick 90 with a long or whatever it may be, and that'll be okay. And it does close. The hood's no problem. You know, it still kind of moves up and down a little, so I think it's okay. I can't see it being a problem. The like, look how tall that radiator is. It's got a big curve in it that goes up quite high. So I'm thinking that's okay. There's no witness marks on nothing. So we'll call it done. So now I do have to brace across for sure and all that, but, oh, and I have this little bung. We put that, weld that right at the top. That'll give me my little 1/8-inch pipe. I can then go out into a barb or whatever and go into the steam port. So that should work out. Fans on the front. I have the cooler lines off, but the cooler sideways for the transmission across the bottom. I think that's as good as it's gonna get. I gotta obviously fix up some of my wiring, and I was hiding that behind that little wing, so now I gotta deal with it a little more properly. But that's gonna be the plan. I think what I'm actually gonna do is run a piece of steel and fill in this belly, because that's no longer needed. That's where the radiator kind of originally sat down, which we don't need to do that. We should be good. The problem with this big Horkin rad, I mean, so much of it is covered by the hood. The grill is small, but that's where those fans will kick in. So I don't know what I'm gonna do next. We'll pull it out and we'll start kind of eyeballing, fitting, see what we gotta do. And then we'll, well, start cutting and welding. Well, let me show you my ingenious butchery. I'm gonna go just a little bit farther, and I still gotta edit a video. But, so I ended up just taking some angle and I slit the belly pan, or whatever you wanna call that, and I put them in a piece of C-channel would be nice, but I had 2 pieces of just 90-degree angle, so we'll do that. They're sitting there. I'll give them a little weld in front and back. I'm gonna then end up sitting these, drill a couple holes, and that'll fit right on but on the bottom side to hold up, so it'll be isolated. It's got just a scotch of room between the support, but we'll get another, whatever that is, 1/4 inch or so. It might squish down, but it'll get something. So that'll be fine. We can then just point this at that radiator hose. This I have just up because I was grinding and I'm gonna be welding, keep it out of the motor, eh? Being smart here. But this we can just tilt down and it can sit somewhere in there, just build some sort of other tab to here, whatever, just to hold it. So it'll be cold air because I've taken out both the skirts there. That'll be fine. Now I have another parts core support, so I'll chop out the center. I'm gonna weld it in across, so that'll be strong again. This is a little blah, but you know what? We're on a bit of a time crunch. So what this is gonna have is you put, see in that hole, I'm gonna do my hair in this thing. That hole and that hole, we'll put another 2 of those isolators, maybe even this 3rd one in the center, and that will sit on top and kind of keep it clamped. Now, as you can see, it's clearly a little bit too high. So once the bar is in, I'll have to weld something on top, maybe 3 mounts, you know, with a piece of angle. I guess I could do the camera. A piece of angle, weld some nuts on the back, and then that can sandwich everything together. And I mean, that's essentially what it's gonna look like. I think on most cars it actually would go that way, maybe? I don't know. We're gonna do it this way. I'll see if I can maybe paint that black or do something different with it, or leave it for now, whatever. But that works, still gives us lots of leeway there for the bung. The lower rad hose is tight in there, but it'll work no issue at all. And because I stood it off, now I can still get to the, oh, I just pulled it back with the wire, gentle. I can still get to the drain. And with it set back, both fans will fit, and it fits behind this brace, so we have all sorts of room. Everything's gonna work. So I'm gonna get this all kind of tacked together, mounted. Then I gotta figure out if I want to attempt welding on that aluminum bung. I've got all the stuff, but man, it's just one little thing. If I screw it up or blow out the radiator, I'm gonna have issues. I don't have time. So let me see if I can text a buddy, see if they can do it maybe tomorrow real quick for me. And otherwise, it can all go back together. Cooling fans on. I got to pick rad hoses up tomorrow, and this thing will be dialed. It really actually went pretty smooth, and we got a giant radiator, and then there's still room in the front for when I finally decide to break down by air conditioning. Okay, final fitment. I made a list of what I need. I think we're doing pretty good. I'm happy anyway, so I just kind of test the fans. I will have to notch this one kind of down post, so I'm thinking I'll just cut it out, flip it around backwards, and weld it so it'll be double wall, but it'll just be closer together. That way the fans will both fit. You can see they're kind of staggered. One top, one bottom. Oops, sorry, they're a little dinner. And right up there, I'm thinking I can put the cooler sideways, so it'll go right through there. And I mean, there's not much real estate that's not covered by fan, so I think we're doing pretty good. That fan will go down a little bit because I just have it wedged in there. It can fit anywhere top to bottom. So the space, you see the bottom will probably actually be on the top, but that'll be fine. And yeah, so it's all fit. I got a list. I got to just kind of get a longer radiator hose. Actually, the ones I cut up would probably work out great because they work quite long. 2 of those, and then I got the bottom just needs a 45. So went not too bad. So if I get a bunch of stuff like that tomorrow, if I can find, I'll see if I can find someone to weld it while I'm at work tomorrow. Otherwise, I'll figure it out tomorrow afternoon, butcher it all up and ruin this brand new $400 radiator. And then I gotta get another relay. So I wanna have fans on separate relays. But then we can test it one more time and hopefully it'll remain cool. And if that's done, we'll start ripping apart the Nomad and do the rear springs. That should go pretty simple. It's just a few bolts. The U-bolts and all that should all be new. The Nomad will come apart easy. This I'm just gonna cut off with a zip disc or I do have a couple of Sawzall blades. Metal Sawzall blades, cut it out, get the whole thing right down, and then just put it up right back into place. Then I think all we have is like little things, how I'm gonna pack it, how I'm gonna organize. I gotta build the cool shirts. Time's ticking, but I'm really confident in this. This actually made me feel a lot better working tonight. All right, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Next day. So I did a little bit of work here. We got the rad pretty much where I want it. I got my little top plate on. I just built a couple of spacers, so we'll bolt it down. Everything worked out good. I ended up getting a couple of different rad hoses, so I'll have to splice these together, but I'll be fine. With the air filter down here, I'll have to twist this tab or do something. The lower rad hose, I haven't found one yet. It might be a little tight because it goes from 1 3/4 down to 1 1/2, so I have to do a little modifications there. So yeah, that's where we're at. The only thing we're really waiting on, I drilled the hole. That's where I want to put the vent. I have been practicing. I pulled the TIG. I've been practicing a little bit. I don't want to screw this thing up before we go. So maybe we'll do it tonight or who knows what. Pulled the wheels. We're going to get to pulling the springs out. So these are 5-leaf springs and the ones in the Nomad are 7. So I'm thinking we'll put those in here. And it has a set of 2-inch lowering blocks. We'll see what it all kind of looks like. Pull together, we're going to take the blocks off, and then it'll sit real high like an old school hot rod, but whatever, we kind of like that anyways. So we got that going on. Oh, and the axle seal actually is leaking on the driver's side. So while we're at it, I'll yoink that out, clean it, pack it full of silicone, and put it back together and hope for the best. Otherwise, I think we're good to go. I really want to test this cooling system today, but it looks like it'll probably be a job for tomorrow. But we'll get the axles done, and we'll be able to see how it sits. Or not the axles. We'll pull the one axle, but hopefully it springs. Hopefully I'll have a good stance. I still have all the stuff in it, so we can do that. You know, get Danny sitting in there, and we'll exactly know how it's going to be riding down the road. But otherwise, look good. Oh, this poor Nomad just turned into an absolute parts car. So we got the springs ripped out. You can see by the drive shaft angle. Sitting on jack stands, being held back by the U-joint. Oh well. Don't worry, it's not permanent. And hopefully, actually I have another set of springs outside I can rebuild and put in something. They actually were a little too high in this thing. I didn't really like the way it looked. That being said, I probably won't like the way it looked in this thing either, because it'll be like a stink bug stance, which, you know, muscle car stance on 57 Chevy looks dumb, but what are you gonna do? This side, I got the one spring in already, so it's nice, new. Changed the bushings. I gotta say the bushings are actually worse than I thought. Whoops. They were kind of wallered out. I took it apart, cleaned that seal, pulled the axle, put it all back together with some more silicone. We'll let that set up and do its thing. And I figured I'd just show you the comparison of the springs. Ooh. So that's what came out. I mean, not bad. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 leaves. I don't know if they're thin there or what. The other side actually had a few rust holes in it. And this is the one that we're putting in. It's got 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 leaves in it. You know, better shape, all new bushings. Front eyelet bushing in there is brand new. These are really good shape. They weren't new, but they were, you know, nicer than these. So we'll slap them in there. Oh, and change these. Put this all together, I'll grease them up, make them look nice. Loctite them, and we should be golden. So I should be able to have that done tonight, and then back at something else tomorrow. Well, she's quite a bit higher, so I don't know if you go back earlier in the video or last one, the swoop was way down into the wheel. So it's still loaded, it has most of the tools and all that in it. Obviously we're not in it, and our luggage isn't, but it's well, she's stiff. Them wagon springs are tough. This thing fought me the whole way. Oh, the only problem was one of the U-bolts didn't come with the hardware, so I gotta deal with that tomorrow. Finish plumbing the radiator. I have a high output alternator I'm gonna swap on there, keep that one as spare, just be on the safe side. But it's a little after midnight. I'm tired. Tomorrow's a new day. Hopefully, I'll get the rad plumbed, finish off the rear end, give everything a quick once over and tighten, and test the cooling system, take it for a ride, see how rough it does ride. Hopefully it'll be okay. I mean, it rode really nice actually on the highway, I gotta say, but I mean, it was just so sacked out, there's no way we're gonna carry on. So she looks like a bit of a monster truck, but it's the best we're gonna do with what we got for right now. They do have, so it's a 5-leaf. They have 5-leaf, 6-leaf, and 7-leaf. Honestly, a 5-leaf probably just a new 5-leaf that isn't all sacked out. Like, these are probably the original ones. Would be what I want. So I'll order those or do something like that. Carry on. I guess these Nomads, all the glass on the side from the wagon, must add a bunch of weight. That's it for me tonight. Danny's taking me out for McDonald's. And yeah, another day closer. Next day, I gotta say the stance is actually it's kind of growing on me. A little high in the back. It's kind of 70s style, but whatever. I think hunker down's the way to go. I did get new U-bolts. So they're completely, the back end is bolted together. I believe 100%. I didn't know if I was gonna put the lowering blocks in. I bought them out, so I didn't Loctite it. So I'll just zing them off, roll some Loctite, and then put the U-bolts back up. They'll be 100% good. Everything else is good back there. Radiator, I got that all kind of situated in there. So I'm pretty happy with it. That's a heck of a lot more cooling. We made the upper rad hose out of 2 and joined them. It's just kind of lightly resting on the intake hose. So I don't know if I can maybe point that down a little more, or I might just kind of sleeve it and put a little piece of rubber under it. I don't think it makes too big of a difference, but whatever, it is what it is. We got our cooler on the front for the transmission. We got, hard to see, dual fans are hooked up. That's all taken care of. We got the steam port ready to go. Got the bung welded in, so that's all dialed. The last thing I was just kind of working on, I'm just kind of showing everything, then we'll just get to the fun part. This is what I'm going to use on the lower radiator hose. So it steps out at 1 3/4 inch. So I got just a little piece like this. So that's going to go on the radiator. This is going to fit in that, and I just welded. I did it real cold on purpose to give it a bump, so it can't blow off once we get it on there. We'll put a hose clamp around it, and that can step down into 1.5, which is then going to go into the water pump, or the water neck, I should say. And then I think the cooling system is pretty much together. We can put some water in it and fill it up and see what happens. I got to wire up the fans. I got to get a second relay. I want each fan on their own power source and their own relay, and I'll share the trigger, so they'll both be on at the same time. But this has to fix it. How could it not? So it's in there, you know, pretty rock solid. I got no qualms with that now. It's all rubber mounted, nothing's touching. This should be perfect. We can still get to the petcock down there. There's an airspace between the cradle, so life's good. Then we can put a big condenser in the front when we finally decide to break down by air conditioning. I'll get this all kind of plumbed. I'll get the wiring done to the fan. Yeah, we should be pretty good. Oh, I don't know if I showed you or not. All the wiring that was going across the front, I retaped it, and I actually I got some heater hose, and I slid it and I sleeved it so it's got rubber hose just in case anything's going to rub or touch. We don't want that because that'll cause problems. So this thing's dialed-ish, as per usual. Like, got away from me. But back the car out, I emptied out a lot of the junk. I just kind of hosed the floor down so it was get some of the coolant off. Let that dry tomorrow. So we had it. Well, I had it backed out with the fan on and running, and perfect. 197. Didn't touch, didn't move. I had it run for probably half an hour. It's probably about 11 o'clock, 10:30 at night right now. So shut her down. It's also getting a little cooler, right? It's not super hot, but I got all the junk out of it. I think tomorrow, well, I am going to take it to work tomorrow, put it through its paces. We'll come back, and then I'll let it sit out in the sun. It's supposed to be a decent day tomorrow. Make sure she don't overheat. I'm pretty sure it's good. I want to make sure the radiator's not going to kind of rattle around. Charging system, it's weird. So the gauge reads 1, but the alternator reads 14 volts, so I don't know what to make of that. I guess it's probably fine. These digital gauges that just have the numbers going, you know, up, down, 1 or 2, 3, you know, increments, it messes with my mind because, you know, on a temperature gauge, you couldn't be able to see the difference between 192 and 197. It would just, that's the needle. Same with, you know, charging. Is it over 12.5? You're fine. So, yeah, that's what I'm going to leave for now. Clean it all up. I want to finish up the tow bar tomorrow. I'll put a few safety bolts in there, and then I think it's kind of clean this thing up, get ready. It's like crunch time before we go. Yeah, look at this trailer queen. All right, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Well, the word of today was undrivable. So, took this hot rod to work, and immediately driving down the back lane, making noise. The new springs had lifted it so much that the drive shaft was into the rod that controlled the emergency brake. And I wanted to keep the emergency brake, so I had to mess with that. Anyways, I'm driving, okay, well, I can handle that. It's like being in a concrete truck. There was no suspension. So I'm jam stacks. On the plus side, didn't overheat. So I took the leaves all apart, started wrenching on them. Ugh. So this is the factory set. I ended up taking 2 leaves out. So this big one went basically eyelet to eyelet the whole way, and then there was another overload spring on the bottom. So I took that out. Hopefully that will solve my problem. Now these are definitely a little bit heavier duty than this style, just thickness, but this was a 5-pack. This is now a 5-pack with the heavier duty stuff. So I put all new hardware in, whatever, rebuilt it, new U-bolts, the whole deal. So hopefully this is gonna solve all of my problems. So I'm gonna put the wheels on, and actually this drum brake was dragging a little bit, there's a bunch of dust on it, so I go adjust that. But then put it back on, take it for a little test drive, hope for the best. At least it didn't overheat. That was the win of the day. And at least if I have to take another leaf out, I don't know what I'll do. I guess I can take one more out without being too much a hassle. And it's all, you know, loose or new parts, so it'll come apart. So let's put this on, drop down, see what it sits like. Hopefully I can put a little weight on it and actually have a little suspension. I do want it to be stiff, but this was too stiff. Well, it's still rough, like rough. I don't know, I think we have to take, like, we'll just be bouncing all over the place here. I think I'm gonna have to take another leaf out. It's getting closer. Hopefully one more and it'll, I don't know what we're gonna do here. So I pulled yet another leaf out, and I don't know, I guess it's better. It's definitely stiff. Then he's gonna have some sore boobs for sure, but I think once we get all the gear in the back and it's got no gas in it, hopefully it'll kind of figure itself out. So we're gonna head home. We got a cooler in the back, and modify that up, and then I don't know what we're gonna do. Maybe take it for a little drive on the highway, make sure it's still good. I think that's it. Tomorrow will be clean up, new video, clean up and packing, and kind of get ready to go, and that's all she wrote. Okay, back home. Now, what we're gonna make, I actually made this thing last year for Miles Mayhem, and we never went using it. It was too, well, it was not hot. So there's a company called Cool Shirt, and they sell, obviously, shirts that have a bunch of tubing in them, and it circulates cold water and keeps you cool in a hot car. Well, they're expensive, so I got some hose and wrapped it around a couple of shirts, a little hot glue, and then a couple of stitches. And I made this cooler last year, but then it's outside and it saw better days with Frankie stepped on it, my dog, and she broke it and cracked it so it leaks. So anyways, all it is a couple of bilge pumps, and then I wired it up to a couple of toggles, and yeah, a couple of 12-volt wires, which we'll have to figure out what we want to do. And it just circulates the water out into some quick connects into the shirt, around, back in. So this is twofold. We'll stay cool and keep the drinks cold. We're gonna have a cooler in the car anyway, so we bought this cooler here. It was on sale. It's actually a little bit too big, but hey, we'll deal with it. So start stripping the parts cooler, making the new hot rod cooler. Okay, so, oh yeah, cool shirt. Totally forgot what we were doing there. So we got, I mean, pretty simple. I just moved everything over. We got it jumpered off the car. Tomorrow I'll run some proper wiring. I got a whole fuse block there, so I'll run a power cable back to the back seat somewhere. And, oh, actually I should go to Princess Auto. She gets some, like a trailer connector or something like that to wire. That's a good idea, Dan. Anyway, we got the shirts all hooked up. Very simple. It's just got 2 little toggles. And then, I mean, it's water, so you'll have to trust me, but it's going through these fancy shirts and right back in. So now we'll, we got to have water in it. We'll put ice in it and our drinks, all that sort of stuff. And then, yeah, no one will be the wiser. It's a little loud, eh? Probably barely even hear that over the motor. But it'll keep us cool, which I think is going to be pretty important down there. And worst case, we have a cooler in the car, which we're going to need anyways. Now, I think the car's running as good as it's going to run. We took it for a little ride to Canadian Tire. It did fine. We're going to get some gas in it because it's dead empty. So fill it full of fuel, see how it rides a little nicer. Make sure it kind of goes around the highway a little bit, see how it drives. I think that's it. Then the next video will be packing it up, loading up the truck, and Headed south with this trailer queen. Oh, I gotta put the decals on too. We gotta do that tonight. Trailer queen.
All right, well, we're rolling. It's actually not as bouncy on the highway as I thought, so it's not too bad. Still got a little bit of tools, spare parts, all sorts of stuff like that. A little wind whistly. Drives down the road straight, not too bad. It's charging good. We got a speedometer now. Woo! Dig it all. Went pick up some American money, so we're just gonna do a little loop around the ring road here, get her home, and then I bought a heat gun, like a little digital, whatever, infrared heat gun. So we'll get home, we'll check that off real quick, sign off the video, and then one more day of work for me. Pack all night, and then we're out of here. So see you at home.
We already did the outro for this video, but I was standing right by the motor while it was running, and when I edited it, you couldn't hear a damn thing. So we came home, I temperature checked everything with the heat gun, everything seemed fine. The rad was cooling, it had, it was like coming at the top at 170, 180, at the bottom it was coming out at like 110, 120, so it's cooling, doing its job. I don't remember what I did there because it's been a few days, but fixed the alternator so it's charging properly, fans are working good, it's giving a good once over. Yesterday I spent the day packing the car and all that. We got stuff. Oh man, do we have stuff. We'll maybe go through it at our first pit stop in the States, because we're gonna do a lot of P stops with Danny. I'm thinking we're gonna see the roadside attractions. And we're headed down, so we got 20 hours ahead of us. And well, where this video ends, the next one's starting. So Power Tour starts next video.